Welcome to the Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast, where I sit down with my good friend Eppy to talk about truly true role-playing games of all ages, stripes, varieties, tones, etc.
Etc. Yes. And the podcast where I sit down with my good friend Nathan Paoletta to talk about the etc.
Especially the etc.
yeah, of role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
We keep joking about we keep using the truly true, and I'm starting to develop like a worry that people think we're trying to exclude something other than computer role-playing games. that is the purpose.
The joke here is just saying a truly true role-playing game is one that happens not on a computer.
Right.
That's the joke.
You could do it over like a visual Zoom or a video call.
Right.
Whatever the generic term for a Skyper is. We'll call it a Skype. Skype doesn't exist.
We still call
anymore.
it a Skype.
Yeah.
It's like like calling like going to the Kinko's. Like Kinko's doesn't exist anymore, but for some of us, that is still the referent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we mean like I'm salty about the fact that when people talk about role-playing games, they mean computer role-playing games, and we, who came first, have to take on the moniker of tabletop.
It went from saying CRPGs back in the day to now RPG. Yes. They dropped the C because that's assumed, and then added the TT to differentiate. And now we're just trying to specify that the TT stands for truly true, as opposed to anything else that the TT could stand for.
And if I had my way, you would call them all computer games and not video games. Like that's a whole nother discussion.
That's a different. I am not qualified to have that discussion. You can have another podcast about that with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are we're bouncing around a little bit. We have the Friday the 13th energy. Friday the 13th, the show, I suppose.
Right.
It's probably more accurate to what we generally talk about as. But yeah, it's the final day for the Swords Without Master Kickstarter. We have achieved many of our goals, which is incredible. And we're just kind of letting it's just going to come in for a landing over the rest of the day, which is very nice.
We did really well. And also the nature of a Kickstarter is to make the people running the Kickstarter worry constantly about the next number.
Right.
We all know this feeling. We've all played D&D. We know that the next level is the one where the character gets fun.
Right.
So it's that same big brain chemistry that we're trying to fight against, because honestly, we did good.
Yeah.
We did real good.
Big shout out again to art director Shell for all of the work that they have put into it to make it the success that it is, with the roster of artists that we would not have if it were not for Shell. Right. So
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever the number is, like, I'm not, like, that number can be achieved in many ways with many strategies. The one we chose to do required Shell, and thus we heap a horde of tribute at Shell's feet to thank them for all the work that they've done.
And a big thank you to all the artists that have joined us. A lot of excitement for the project. We should move on to our actual podcast, but I just want to say that, like, the things that we're doing with the Eidolon folios bode well for like future swords material. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of nice to be in a position where it's like, the game is the game, the Eidolons are the Eidolons, they work together beautifully, but also you don't need them to play the game is the game.
Right. Yeah.
But they have enough intrinsic interest, and like, you could also use them for other games, right? Or you could just use them as a beautiful art collection because they're going to be so cool. So like, it's nice that we've landed there. But anyway, it's not forbidden this episode. But
right. Not like the last one.
Not like the last one, but we have other things to talk about. Specifically, we assigned some homework. We did not do it on mic. We realized after we recorded the last episode that it was about time to get back to what we're actually supposed to be doing with this show. And we hashed out some thoughts and assigned some homework that we have done. So we'll tell you about the homework, and then we will discuss the results. Eppy, how would you characterize our homework assignment?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
We don't have the recording to refer back to, so we need this is establishing what we each actually did.
So we were talking about games that when you come across, you were like, oh, I didn't know we could design games like that.
Mm-hmm.
And our homework, I'm going to say it was a little challenging, but look, I'll get into that in a moment. But our homework was to come up with 3 examples of games that have done that for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's challenging because I knew what homework we're going to assign at the end of this episode. Should I bring that up?
I mean, it's part of what we talked about when we were deciding what to do. So
Yeah. So our idea is that we're going to each of us present around three. We say around 3.
Right, yeah, around 3.
Games that just kind of blew our minds, changed our conception of what could be a role-playing game, and which is like a tall order. And then the opposite. So Nathan for me and I for Nathan will assign one of those and your current project that you're working on and say, hack it to be like that, right? Like that's the idea. We'll characterize that a little bit better.
Maybe we'll talk our way into what that actually will look like.
But that was my concern, because like I don't know how it was with you, but like I was going through them and I was rejecting all the ones that did that, but had an influence on game design that I did later. Right.
Like, that's kind of the tricky bit that I think we should talk about.
Yeah. Cause I was like, oh, hold on. I think when I like a thing, when something blows my mind, I start playing with it right away. I start trying to design with it, like
the correlation between something that made me go, oh, I didn't know you could do this in game design. And now I'm imprinting on it and I'm taking lessons from it for my own work, right? Is very tight. It's not necessarily 1-to-1, but like,
but it's
very tight. So I ended up deciding on, some of the picks I made are more yes, this game is a big influence on me, but this is the specific bit that sticks with me as, oh, I never would have thought to do it this way. Which was kind of where I started talking us into the idea, not just like, whoa, I can't believe this is possible, but also because of the way my brain works, I would not have thought to do X. And this person did. And now I know to do, like, now it's something that's in my toolkit because I learned it from this game or whatever, but I never would have gotten there on my own is kind of where I landed with a lot of my picks.
I definitely fixated on the, like, okay, I can't choose this because it's, and then eventually I gave up on the restriction, like, and I was like, okay, what are the ones that kind of did that? I think I can hit 3. I definitely have 2. I'll tell you why my third one's a little cheating, because I think it's everyone's. And so I'm not going to like worry about that. But should we go?
Looking at my list now, because I did actually make my list yesterday. I did my homework in advance for once. So, I would like a trophy, please. But looking at my list now, I think one that jumps out is certainly Tim Kleinart's The Mountain Witch, right?
Ah, yes, it's a good one.
I'll link to The Mountain Witch, the production history kind of is a tale at this point. It's getting resurrected now by the University of Minnesota Press, I think. I'll put a link in the show notes. I forget exactly which university. There's a university press that's doing game stuff. And they did a project last year that they're republishing The Mountain Witch, Dog Eat Dog, and Princess with a Cursed Sword, which are 3 very different games that are all kind of like, these deserve to, like, these should be in the lexicon, and so they're kind of like anyway. So it might be hard to. So The Mountain Witch at this point is hard to find, but it's coming back. So stay tuned. If you are not familiar, this is a game where you play a group of Ronin samurai going up the slopes of Mount Fuji to seek out the mountain witch Oyanma, who lives on said slopes. And you are each driven by a dark fate, which is kind of, the reason you are there. But also, like, you are there because you need money, and there's a reward, right, for bringing back the head of the witch. That's kind of the premise. And then the whole game revolves around this idea of trust and gaining trust with other characters, and then having that be rewarded or be turned against you, depending on the events of play and how your dark fates end up surfacing, because the dark fates end up pointing you kind of at each other. But you don't necessarily know how that's going to work until you have some like characterization to bounce off of and you actually go through some stuff together. So the whole thing is like a really great example of, I think, an early thing in that. So this is, it actually came originally out of an Iron Game Chef in the early 2000s. And a lot of good games came out of that particular one. Is a very productive one. But it was a great example of something that people were starting to do at the time, which was say, like, what's the difference between a game and an adventure?
Right.
These can be the same thing, right? Like the scope of the game can be what we traditionally call an adventure. And then the rules of the game can be about making that adventure the best it can be for what it is, but it's not necessarily like, you're not going to go, I mean, you can do anything, right? Like you can go play, Pathfinder with the Mountain Witch, I guess.
Right.
But like, why would you want to? Because Pathfinder is for Pathfinder and the Mountain Witch is for the Mountain Witch, right? There's
if your game is a scenario and that's it, you can write rules that are very specific to how that scenario goes, and then you don't have to write rules for all the other stuff that has nothing to do with the scenario. Yeah.
I think that approach to a particular project really stuck with me, and is like a lot of my games end up in that mode. So there was that, and then a specific thing that sticks with me as like something I never would have gotten to on my own. The way that kind of like conflict and opposition works, right, is so it's a there's a single GM multiple player setup, and it's all using D6s. And you have the thing as on the GM side, you have the thing where it's like, okay, if I have all these like stock, and I've run this game a lot. I have all these like stock like encounters that I like to do. So one is there's a fence that divides the lower slopes from the upper slopes of the mountain, and there's a gate in the fence, and there is an Oni demon sitting there guarding the gate, and it demands your most precious possession from you before it'll allow you to pass. This can be handled in many ways by the players. They often, because of the poetic nature of it, like at that point, often people make like a really strong, like I cut off my top knot, or like the sword of my father, like that kind of stuff. But you can also be like, no, man, we're going to stab this demon to death, right? Like you can approach it in all these different ways. So how these conflict resolution works here is that everyone involved is going to roll a d6, and then the highest number wins. You subtract the lower number from the higher number for a degree of success. So you end up with, and there's a chart for like what that means from like a tie, right, to partial to full, etc. Yeah. Any conflict is the one die versus one die, right? However, if the characters help each other by spending trust, which is, that core thing, you roll your dice and you add them together to get that number. So when you're fighting my Oni, it's one die versus one die. I think maybe there's some circumstances the GM gets more dice. I forget exactly. I'm not going to look that up. But then if M spends a trust to aid you, then you roll your two dice. We add those together. High die wins. I subtract mine for degrees. If we have three, two characters spend trust to aid one, then you have three dice that you add them together. So you get this very quick scaling where it's like things are very potentially dangerous all the time, except when you help each other, and then you're just going to dominate. Then you're like, once you start spending,
unless
trust,
there's like a fluke roll or something like that, you.
But trust not only is a resource that is fairly constrained. There's other uses for it, including potentially turning on your fellows at the end of the game when it turns into a big blood opera face and throw down thing. It's also very important for doing a duel. If you have a samurai duel, the person who has more trust is more vulnerable. basically. And also trust is per other character. So if you have trust with me, M does not have trust with me, M cannot help me, but you can.
Right.
So like this kind of matrix of mechanics creates this really compelling play experience where kind of at the beginning, when people generally are like kind of keeping trust even with each other, you usually start play with everyone kind of having like one point of trust with everyone else. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a thing that's hard to deal with. And then everyone goes, oh, okay, if we help each other, then we can overcome these obstacles. Then they start spending trust and the trust goes away. And then later, so you go higher up on the mountain, and now all of a sudden you have these like pairs or triads of like, oh, these two people trust each other, but this one's out in the cold. Right. And now as the GM, you get to sculpt your stuff towards trying to push those trust relationships around, try to get them to spend trust. It's really neat. And it's something that, I think just that like wild overscaling, I never would think about, because like my inclination would be, right. Something that's more about not necessarily like keeping things even, but I don't know. It just wouldn't be that. It would be something that's more mechanically kind of straightforward. And like this particular mechanic kind of has this wildness to it that would not come to me naturally. So anyway, pick that out as a particular thing. But the Mountain Witch. Yeah.
A classic of the genre. Very good choice. I'm going to go with maybe the lesser known. Man, okay, so this is one I chose because I haven't really experimented too much in this field. And this was like one that stood out as like, it's always in the back of my head. And I don't recall the name of it. Years ago, Emily ran a contest. We have jams nowadays. We used to have contests. It's the same sort of thing. I think a jam is like a moment like we just had here where that we're talking about here, where we're like, oh yeah, we don't have to like fight each other for first place. We can all just create a thing together.
Yeah.
But this was a contest because Emily wanted to see single player role playing games out in the world, and so it was designed as single player. This is before like the current sort of trend of journaling role-playing games, and so solo role-playing.
This is back when people would have an argument over whether it's possible to play a solo game.
Yes.
And was kind of like, well, let's show that it's possible.
Yeah. And I ended up being one of the judges on it, like, whatever. What do I know? There were a lot of great entries. I had a lot of fun with all of them. But there was one in particular from Avery Alder of Monster Hearts and the Quiet Year fame. What's it? The belonging outside belonging stuff. Yeah. Framework. Yeah. Stuff. Yeah. Wrote a game about being a teenage witch.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. What I remember from it was having that like that moment of like, this isn't a game. A visceral, this isn't a game reaction, which then you have to go, okay, all right, hold up. Why are you, if it's nothing, why are you having that reaction to it, right? And so went back, and so like, read it, went on and read a bunch of other entries, and then came back to it, and I was like, oh, this is really neat. And so the thing about it is that it's basically like, I'm mischaracterizing it because like this has been over a decade. This is what stuck with me, not necessarily what the game itself was like, but this is what stuck with me. The lesson that I learned from it was basically like, go into a quiet place and think about being this, right? Like there were instructions. I think there might have been prompts and things like that, but it wasn't like there was no dice. There was no laying out of cards. Like there were some really cool games in that jam that used like solitaire to great effect. I think there was a game that was like that like used a workout as part of it. Like like the idea is that you're like paladins preparing for battle against the undead in some dungeon, and you're doing a workout or whatever. You literally have to do a workout while you're doing it. But this one was just like, like make yourself a cup of tea, find a quiet dark spot, and think about the fact that you can cast spells and you're a teenage witch, right? Like, and again, my brain's fuzzy about a lot of facts about it, but this idea that like you can build a game around just you're this character,
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, I've seen some examples of that have really been that have impressed me, right? Like, not that, like, this one definitely impressed me, but it was the one. It was the one that broke my brain, right? Like, that made me go, "What?"
Is the one that got you.
Another, like, I think kind of, I don't know if legendary is the right term, but like kind of well known is the I think it's Still Life is what it's called.
I was going to say the rock LARP, because I was
the rock LARP. Yes, yes. From the Golden Cobra contest, I think it's, or jam. I don't know what it is, but this is a LARP yearly LARP contest. They have like a list of like ingredients and things, and people write LARPs and submit them, and then I think they play them at Metatopia. Like,
yeah, I think there's a couple over time. It's been in different spots, but yeah.
But this this particular one, Still Life, which is you play, a bunch of people play rocks, and you sit down on the ground and you think about being a rock. And I think there's like moments where you could be moved by like the wind or the water or erosion or something. But again, it's meditative more than anything else, right?
I know it as the favored Sunday morning LARP for convention.
It feels right. That feels like a very good time to do it, right? I need to like refocus my brain and just be a rock for a little bit. And there's I mean, I doubt that this had an influence on it, but watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of the realities is they're just rocks. And so, and that movie came out afterwards, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that it was influenced by Golden Cobra, but
we're not saying it wasn't.
It has to have been. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess that is in my list because I was focusing on trying to find something that has stuck with me. That's like, in my craw that I haven't really done anything with yet. So that's definitely one of them.
Nice. And I'll link to that in the show notes, because it's all the Golden Cobra stuff lives on their website. They archive it also. Yeah. It's a 5-page PDF. You can check it out. You can play Rock LARP. You
can search in that archive. A young web designer made the searchable archive there. And needs to redo it.
The other one I want to highlight here is friend of the show, Gregor Hutton's Remember Tomorrow, which has been a big influence on both of us. And specifically, we stole, and by we I mean you, because you thought of it, stole the Ready, Willing, Able nomenclature for our use in the annual, where it's different. We use it differently than it is in Remember Tomorrow, but yeah, so Remember Tomorrow is I say it's specifically a early William Gibson-esque cyberpunk game, right? The subtitle on it is Near Future Role Playing, and the idea is that you're playing 20 minutes in the future when everything is different. So something about it that is really admirable, that is why it sticks with me as a game to play, is that when you play, it really creates these sequences of events that feel like reading Neuromancer. Because Gibson has this very distinct style of like these like staccato scenes with these like really, really colorful characters that kind of like appear and disappear. And as you read, you learn the plot, but a lot of the imagery and like rhythm is what kind of sticks with me out of his stuff. And this game really like makes that happen specifically. So I was like, okay, what actually blew my mind here? I was reviewing it. It's very spare in terms of the text, in a good way. And I think it's the way that you conceive of and make characters, and then how they work in play. So in Remember Tomorrow, it has a model of pooled character ownership, where you make characters and then they go into a pool, and then on your turn, you can play any character that isn't currently like claimed by another player.
Right.
So when you do generation, you make two characters. You make like a named like PC, player character, protagonist, whatever. And then you make a faction, and they have similar but distinct ways that they work in the game, like the ways that their stats work and stuff. They're like, they kind of use the same basic structure, but factions have a more constrained kind of palette of like stuff they do because they're representing this larger, more amorphous kind of faction. So you do that, and that's really cool because you end up with this, you kind of generate the stuff that's going to be relevant out of, like, I made this character, and then I made this faction, and then you made this character, and then I can start to see why my faction might want to like recruit them or something. And then they're making their faction, and now I see how the two factions might be in conflict. Like that all happens really organically, which is nice. And then the scene structure is also constrained, where there's 3 basically types of scenes. There's introduction, where you show off this new character that no one has met before, or a faction. And then there's a deal, which is always a PC and a faction, or a face-off, where you target someone else's PC or faction with yours. Mm-hmm. And that's like it. There's a thing where, like, if you play out a scene and you realize there's no real conflict here, then you're like, okay, that was just a color scene, and like you move on.
Yeah.
There's a little like escape valve for like, I didn't really have an idea, I just wanted to see this in play, and then you're like, oh, actually, we don't have anything to fight about. Actually, it's like, okay, cool, it's a color scene, we move on. But when you decide what you are going to do on your turn, those are your 3 options.
I remember when I first played Remember Tomorrow, that the color scene escape valve, like you said, was controversial. Like we were playing it with some like hardcore indie TTRPG.
It's kind of like a post-Forge kind of thing where anyway, that's a different, but
somebody was like, I just feel like it's a failure if it's just a color scene. Like we failed to reach the conflict, and I was like, no, this is here for a reason. Like, it's fine if nothing arises there. That's so that was definitely a moment of like, you can design games like this in this microcosm, right? Like, yeah.
And then one thing that I think really creates that like Gibson-esque nature is this mechanic of the cross, which is when you do roll dice, you're rolling d10s. You are usually rolling 3 or maybe 4 in some circumstances. And you're basically looking for like successes, like on a, you're doing a rollover number, trying to get a number of successes. But when you get a cross, which is when 2 or potentially 3 of your dice tie, that means that something in the current scene must also appear in the next scene. And like, that's it. That's the rule. Like, something here, someone has to bring something from this into the next scene. And that has to happen on a cross. And I think a lot of the time you kind of do that naturally because you're kind of looking for reasons to like, pull in other people's characters or like keep a theme going or whatever. But when those moments happen and now there's a focus and it's like, oh, okay, now whoever's turn it is, it's like, okay, am I thinking of what to bring in? Or like, as you're playing, is someone else going to bring it in? And at some point you're like, okay, we do have that cross. Like, does someone have something? Like, it can become a point of discussion, and it doesn't have to matter. Like, it doesn't have to be important. It just has to be something. So it could be like the character from that scene is like seen through a window on a motorcycle, and like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just to create continuity.
And there's just something about that's so simple, but the fact that it's tied to an intermittent reward, right? Where it's like, sometimes you're going to roll doubles, but not all the time. Creates that kind of choppiness to it that really, I think, adds to the overall kind of pastiche kind of pulling together the thing. It's not so much that I'm like, oh, I never thought about constrained scene types or whatever, but the relationship of like group of characters, pool of characters, you're pulling characters in and out. You make a guy, I could play the guy. I make a faction, you could play the faction. Like that soup, and then having the like constrained scenes where everything is like, what are we doing here? Okay, we're introducing things, we're making deals, and we're facing off. Those are the things we're doing in this game. And then you just have these little narrative bits of these little threads that just like jump around like little drops of water on a skillet as you're playing. Yeah. That package is like so perfect. It works so well. And I'm like, I never would have gotten there. Like, again,
Yeah.
I would have overdetermined the whole thing. Like, everything would be super, I would have had more direct, like,
Lockdown.
reincorporate this into that kind of stuff. And that wouldn't be the same. Anyway, remember tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think it's time. It's time to pull out the Bullwinkle and Rocky.
I was going to say Tunnels and Trolls.
No. No, we did Tunnels and Trolls with the spiral bound.
Yeah, we've talked about Tunnels and Trolls.
Yeah. So I've got 2 gears, maybe 3, but my maybe 3 is going to end up in honorable mention. So the 1987 Bullwinkle and Rocky role-playing party game. I'm going to say it really slow while I type it in.
Role-playing party game, not the party role-playing game. As the Bullwinkle and Rocky, not the Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes. There's a lot of that I've definitely embraced in my design of titles by creating a title that does not trip off the tongue. So the Bullwinkle and Rocky role-playing party game is 1988, it looks like, according to this Wikipedia page. But came out in the 80s. It is what it says on the cover. It is a game. It's from TSR. It's who wrote it? Where are the credits here? Warren Spector and Dave Zebcook. Zebcook has got the game design credit, and Warren Spector has the development and editing. And there's so many things in this game that are presage everything we reinvented in early aughts, right? The game has end game mechanics, like rules for, the story's at an end, time to wrap it up, which was a thing that, like, in 88 did not exist. You kind of, like, the idea was that you would live forever playing these games, right? Like, that was the goal, a campaign that lasted 30 years. Anyways, so there's that. It was a tightly, built game. There's shared GMing rules, which I'll go into because that is actually part of the one that I want to kind of like focus on. There's failure is a good thing, so you want, like, because fun things happen. It's a cartoon, right? Like, obviously, the more interesting thing is when the characters fail. There's also presages the Kickstarter era, because this thing is a box full of, like, spinners and hand puppets and cards and, like, all the gewgaws that you could ever want. At the time, I got this back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, right? I was probably of an age where I should have been like, that's baby stuff, right? Like, I was a teen and was, trying to make my adult identity. But I liked it. I loved Rocky and Bullwinkle. And I used to, like, listen to, like, the music from the show. Like, we had a record of it. Actually, it wasn't even a record. I got to tell you, I think this was a reel-to-reel. But I don't want to even get into that. I don't think I played it at that time. I think I read it and thought, no, this isn't a serious role-playing game. I did not, it did not occur to, or maybe my friends didn't want to. I'm not entirely sure, but, like, it wasn't until much later that I reopened it up after we had rebuilt all of it, right? Like, there's so much in here that just shows up in, some things about it that, like, I think, still kind of blow my mind that we don't, or I haven't designed it and I'd love to. One, it does a great job of, like, presenting the game as 3 different games for different layers of, like, how much you want to engage in. And that's a thing that I'm like, we do have that, like, there's even as far back as, like, the basic set and then the expert set, that kind of thing. Sure. We have advanced rules, and that, like, if you're really into it, you can use these extra rules or whatever. We've got that in Swords. Like, I have an advanced rules section in Swords. So that's not necessarily like, oh no, but, like, it's great because the way it's presented is very, and its basic game is the most loose and less the game that you'd be like, well, is this even a game? That kind of thing. Like, or is this even a role-playing game? The part that, like, I really love is the adversarial GM, right? The GM in this game is called the narrator. Everyone has these cardboard stand-ups of their character, with their characters' powers on the back, and like they are wonderful. I think Bullwinkle has a bunion that can predict the weather. Those kinds of powers. And then there's a stand-up that just says narrator. It's got an old-fashioned radio microphone as the thing. And in one of the games, I think it's called the narration game, somebody's the narrator, and you have a hand of cards these cards are just things in the world of Rocky and Bullwinkle. And people will, as you're telling the story, when you incorporate one of these cards, you put it down or whatever. The idea is that you want to get rid of your cards before the other team. There's two teams. There's good guys and bad guys. There's Squirrel and Moose and Natasha and Boris. And you want to get rid of your cards before the other team does. If you're the narrator, you have a massive amount of GM power, right? Like if somebody fails a roll, you get to or they succeed, you get to kind of tell the tale of what that is. You can shape the fiction. And in this game, you're told to specifically root for your team. And if Boris succeeds, you can make it a bad success. And it's fine because the moment you get rid of a card, the narration passes to the other team. So it's this balancing act of you want to get rid of your cards, but also you have this power over the story to make it about the good guys or the bad guys. And that's great. That's a tool that I would love to find some way to use. There's other things too. Like I said, there's end games. There's fate play. It tells you how the story's going to. It tells you where it begins and how it ends, and you have to figure out the middle part. Which is another thing that back in the day probably made us angry. Don't tell me how this ends. Yeah. There's a lot that game has just got so much packed into it. The way it's written. I mean, I've done long threads about this, but the characters in the story, Rocky and Bullwinkle and Boris, and they're telling you the rules. But it's not Bullwinkle telling you the rules. It's Mr. Know-It-All telling you the rules, which is a character that Bullwinkle plays in one of the Rocky and Bullwinkle skits.
Right.
But sometimes Bullwinkle comes in and says stuff. And sometimes Mr. Know-It-All and Bullwinkle are talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds confusing. It's not. Because we're really good at switching roles. We're role players. We get that. It's
and also Mr. Know-It-All is wearing glasses, so you know that they're
exactly. exactly. So
nice.
It's definitely a game that it blew my mind how much it knew ahead of time.
How ahead of its time, how much it.
That's it.
How much it presaged what was to come.
Yes. But also there's still stuff in there that I'm I really want to play in this sandbox here. I want to dig around here. Yeah.
Cool. I guess we're calling them honorable mentions. Just some quick, here's other things that I dug up while I was doing my homework. So I'll just run through mine and then we'll run through yours.
Yeah.
Other stuff that kind of came to me as I guess it's the combo of unexpected when I ran across it, plus still sticks with me as something in the toolkit to I should do something with this, or if this is the right tool, I have this because of that. 1001 Nights, Meg Baker's 1001 Nights, one of my all-time faves, uses dice. They're called gems in that game, so that you have a big bowl of beautiful gems in the middle of your table. And the rules care about you taking and giving back gems and you having a certain number of them. And it cares about you rolling them, but it only cares about odds and evens. So you can use any dice as the gems.
Yes.
That's great. It's just the combination of the physicality and the metaphor being totally congruent with the theme of the game and everything, but then having that real mechanical simplicity of just empty your whole dice bag into the bowl, grab whatever ones you want, because we just care about odds and evens.
It's great.
It's so elegant. It's an extremely elegant combination of things that I'm I never would have gotten there. So shout out to Meg for that one. On the other end of the spectrum, in many ways, it's technically a Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure, but it's an OSR adventure. You can use, you can play with whatever. Black Sun Death Crawl by James McGeorge. This is a nihilist crawl into the center of a world where it is under the fell radiations of the black sun, which causes all these like weird and horrible things to happen. It's very bleak. Great one shot. One of the things in it is a real-time roll that you make for what's called black light corruption, and it's basically every half hour of actual playtime you're supposed to roll on this table, and it builds over time. I don't remember exactly how it's phrased, but it's like you either like roll like a D2, then a D4 or whatever, or you like roll once and roll twice. I forget exactly, but the point is every player rolls on this timer, and then depending on what you roll, you can get these corrupted things that happen to your character, like your skin grows over your eyes, or like you grow an extra arm out of the middle of your chest, but it like can't hold anything because it's a little shriveled, thing, like whatever. And there's something about it in context of that game where like, because it's real time based, it'll just happen, right? Because so like in the narrative time, it just happens randomly because
right.
There's no, it's not a 1-to-1. So it starts to really feed into this sense of like crisis and paranoia, and like and you start to feel like there's a race against time, but you're not sure against what, because you don't like, there's no particular end point that that you're heading towards. It also gives your characters new stuff. Like you could potentially end up with new like character kind of things powers. You can do and powers and stuff because of the corruption. So it's both thematic and it escalates the game. It escalates the tension as you play. It's just really, really neat. And that idea of the real-time staged role for a thing, keep that in your back pocket for something. I think that can be used for a lot of different things.
I have deeply fond memories of a like super simple little like war game that I used to play with my friends in high school. We called it You Die Now. And you just kind of ran around playing. It was designed to like you use whatever figurine you want. We used like Lego sometimes, and sometimes Warhammer 40K minis, whatever we had on hand. And the survivor, only one character survives, and you can play the survivor in the next battle. They get advance, they get better at it, but they heal once a day in real time. So like if we're going to play again, you might want to set that character aside and let them heal up or whatever. But in the discussions about when that happened, eventually we settled on at midnight is when they heal. And we would play games late at night, and just that became like I need to get rid of this hit points, and the next like somebody starts extending their turn because they're like, if I could just make it past midnight, I heal up a little bit, and maybe I can survive this. Anyways, it's fun. I love the real time constraint.
And then the last one I wanted to bring up is a unpublished game, but one that has been a big influence on me, which is Jared Sorensen's Dark Pages. It is kind of homage to the real character-driven dark comic book thing. Something about it that I found that I find really compelling in terms of like, ooh, this really made me want to play, is how characters work. You have there's like two axes for your characters deal. One is their concept, and so that's kind of like the kind of person they are, like vigilante or ghost or freak or outsider or whatever. And there's a bunch of those, and they're mechanically, they are kind of defined by what is the core issue you want to face in your game. So like vigilantes face issues about like justice and retribution and the role of and corruption and stuff like that, right? While like the outsider faces issues of belonging and being in step with other people and stuff like that. And then you also have an archetype, which is kind of your like role in the story ish. And those are more constrained. There's 8 of them. There's like 12 or 14 concepts. And there's 8 archetypes. 4 of them are mortal and 4 of them are cosmic. And they're kind of like major arcana-ish, but not really. And so like the mortal ones are Fool, Hermit, Magician, and Warrior. And the cosmic ones are Moon, Sun, Void, and Wheel, right? And those are like what drives your character to action is kind of the question for the archetype. The magician is driven by things of like discovery and power and stuff like that, while like the wheel is driven by things of like harmony and reincarnation and a larger perspective on the world and stuff like that. Anyway, so you pick these things and like that's fun. And there's a lot of mix and match. So like, you know, my vigilante hermit and my vigilante void are very different kinds of characters, right? And you can kind of like map them onto the onto comics, you know, and the characters, you know. And then over time, characters, you know, they take pain, they can die, but then they're going to come back, right? Because it's comics. So there's this whole thing of reincarnation, but there's different specific ways you can do it, and they're tied to these different things. So like one version is when you come back with a different concept, while a different version is where you come back with the same concept with a different archetype. So in longer term play, that ends up creating the arcs for your characters, where it's like, you know, your vigilante who goes away, and then your vigilante warrior who goes away and then comes back as the vigilante hermit. Like that's like, you know, you start to see the scope, the arc of that character, and then something happens to them and they come back as a ghost hermit, right? It's like you can start to kind of articulate these long-term storylines just by that choice. And I just really love that. And yeah, it's good stuff. And it's really stuck with me as like just a really concrete way of parsing out like, what are we even doing here? What is a character? Why do we care about them? And like, what's fun about them in long-term play?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Dark Pages.
My 2 honorable mentions. Number 1, we can go through this quick. Read a situation from Apocalypse World. We all know it. It just blew my mind. I hacked it into like it's the whole reason that Wolfspell exists. It's Vast and Starlit was like not have existed if that didn't happen. There's just this concept, this idea that like prescribing the questions you can ask to like narrow the focus and says these are the things your character is concerned about. Like you no longer do you as a player get to just range all over the place because this character has pressing concerns and these are what they are. I think in the early days I had like an idea for a bat family, like the Batman, where like almost all the moves were these like had these questions about like Alfred has questions like, is Master Bruce getting what he needs? You know, and that kind of like forcing you to focus on the things that the character's focused on rather than like, you know, it's a great way to just say, this is what the character is concerned about. Yeah, there's plenty of fuel there. I merely have to point to I think up to this point, 15 million powered by the Apocalypse games. Right. One of my favorite wrestling games, Worldwide Wrestling, is. Anyways, yeah, I don't have to tout that here. But the other one, I can remember where I was when I learned about this idea. I cannot remember what the game is. I think it was a Japanese role-playing game that was being translated. And but there's this. Later, it's shown up in other games that I've enjoyed. And it's the idea of damage doing, like, giving you narrative control. So an example that I can point to, more recent that I've played and I enjoyed quite a bit, is Urban Jungle from Sanguine Games. And that one, you have soaks, which are like these things that you use to take up the damage that you take. And if you don't soak up the damage, if 1 point gets through, then you're kaput. Like that's the end. I think your character's unconscious. I don't think your character's dead. But you know, like it's a noir game. Right. So like, you know, and these soaks aren't generic. They're not like you have like 5 soaks and that's it or whatever. They're like a number tied to a game effect. One of the examples is like one of the bigger ones is, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like Distressing Scream. And you could soak up like a massive amount of damage and you give us out a scream and any ally who can hear you automatically rallies. Right. And this is just like the character that is not a fighter, but is in the scenes, right? Like, so somebody pulls a gun on them and starts shooting at them. They run around ducking, screaming, and all the people who can do things with guns or can, handle it immediately get like some bonuses and whatever. It's a neat like way of like giving that character something to do when violence occurs in the game, right? Like you have a character who's not there to do fisticuffs, is not there to throw punches, but has something to do. There's other things that the soaks do, like some characters are like they take more damage just because they're broken, and there's in one of the supplements there's some great things about like monster effects that like as long as the soak hasn't been used, the monster can like terrify people or whatever. And that's kind of fun. Anyways, there's just these neat things like, but mainly the idea that like, hey, when we put characters in danger, they react in a way, and sometimes that way, like fictionally, is very helpful to them, even though we interpret it as, oh, you're running away, or you're like, you've been captured, but like, yeah, you've been captured. Here's all your bonuses for being captured, right? There was like a moment where like, early on in my design days where I was like, oh, we don't have to spiral to death every time.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have to like worry about this one number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Should we figure out our homework?
Yes, we should assign homework for next time. So we were thinking about basically picking one of those things. I would pick one of those things that you have brought up for you to apply as kind of either a framework or like do a hack or something for something that you're working on now.
Yeah. Let's start with, what are you working on now that you would like to do this experiment with?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think Mortal Skein is too far along. I don't know how much I'm going to get out of like kind of revisiting
you would
what I'm doing with it.
Rebuilding it. Yeah.
So I guess there's two things that I could go forward with. One is my like big lore, like anime inspired world game that we've talked about, where where I was exploring like using like the decks of cards to like kind of define characters and world stuff and whatever. So there's that, and that's like I have a bunch of like floating pieces that could be pulled together for something, but I don't really have like a plan or a direction. Or something about my sailing game, because that's a little more nascent, or like I kind of know the shape of like what that should look like ultimately, but I'm just kind of fumbling around with like, what do you do in this game? Like I have like a mechanic and like a shell, but nothing in between yet. So I'd say one of those, if something jumps out at you.
I would like you to remember tomorrow your sailing game.
Okay.
Does that work?
I'll take it. I don't know what that means, but I'll try.
Yeah. I mean, like we don't necessarily have to make a thing that works or that's good. We just need to like toy with it, right?
And I think, and specifically, this isn't like you must incorporate the thing you said you like to, that stuck with you about the game. Is more in this context. I'm kind of like, okay, what does a hack of Remember Tomorrow that is for the sailing game? What
exactly.
What does that look like? Okay, I'll think about that. I've done one Remember Tomorrow hack already, actually, but we can talk about that another time. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll remember tomorrow my sailing game. What are you working on that would be helpful to approach?
I am feeling the inevitable pull of Robin Hood and Lincoln Green. So I do have a bunch of stuff written for all that or whatever, but I obviously I enjoy rewriting this game over and over again. So I'm perfectly comfortable.
Okay. Huh. I mean, as much as I think, sit and think about what it would feel like to be a Robin Hood. Like, I don't know how much juice there is there. Like, you can do that too, I think. That could be something you also do. But yeah, I think, what does the Bullwinkle and Rocky Lincoln Green party game What is that?
All right.
What
does that look like? Let's do it. I'm excited about this. This is we're gonna have a little time before the next episode.
Yeah,
hopefully.
we have a couple of weeks, so we'll work on it. But that's a fun assignment.
We don't need a complete project. We just need an overview of how we think we're gonna put it together.
Yeah, just whatever we get to, whatever insights we are able to glean from said process. I think we should go ahead and wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Mm-hmm.
The Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast is by us. Go us. Our music is by Will Yobst. Thank you, Will. Find Will at goodluckpress.co. You can find more Unwritten Earths stuff from unwrittenearths.com, including links to our Discord, where we're getting our Playtest Tuesdays spun up again. I think that's going pretty well.
Yeah.
You can find our games, links to where to buy our games, which is great. Sign up for our mailing list, etc., etc. Listen and subscribe to this very show. Yeah, those are all the things I usually say, I think.
Yeah.
Until we get to this final one, which is, Eppy, have we made a game yet?
Oh, man. We're going back to the drawing board.
We're now on a journey for 2 games, or maybe 4 games.
Yes. Yeah, who knows?